notes are on Unit 5, Part 3, The Manifest Destiny and the Mexican-American War. These notes will focus on a major event in U.S. history in the early to mid-1800s, and also why and how our nation expanded to go coast to coast. Manifest Destiny in the Mexican-American War. The United States felt it was their divine right or God-given right to expand their land from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific. As a result, they acquired Texas or brought it into their own land and also fought a war with Mexico in order to gain land they felt was rightfully theirs. The only proof they had to justify what was rightfully theirs was this theory of manifest destiny and that they had this right to expand their land. So let's first talk about what manifest destiny means. It's the belief that the United States had the God-given right to expand their territory from ocean to ocean, Atlantic to Pacific. In this drawing below, it's a very famous painting, and the angel represents the leading of the United States westward. So you see the buggies and the Native Americans being driven out, and then people moving west following the angel. This supported their reasoning to annex Texas or to bring it into their own possession, and also to fight in the Mexican-American War in order to gain land. The same thought process is similar to what guided the Indian Removal Act as well. In order to gain a better understanding of the Mexican-American War, we need to talk about the annexation of Texas. Texas was declared independent, or the people that moved there declared themselves independent from Mexico in 1835. So Texas was kind of divided into people from Mexico and then Americans that moved there that became Texans or Tejanos. The people who were more of an American background decided to become independent from Mexico in 1835. A few years later, the U.S. declared the annexation, or to basically tell Texas that they were now part of U.S. territory, because they were made up largely of American citizens. And that happened in 1844. The annexation of Texas led to hostilities between Mexico and the United States. Mexico did not like that the United States was encroaching on their property, so to speak, and they were worried about what would happen as a result. Part of the annexation of Texas is the famous battle at the Alamo. The Alamo is a historic landmark, previously a Spanish mission, so this territory used to belong to the Spanish. And it's where a famous battle between Mexico and the Texans took place, and they were fighting for independence. This particular battle involved Davy Crockett, if you've ever heard of him. They basically drew a line right there and said, "This is ours, this is yours." A very famous battle. Up here in this picture is a picture of an Alamo. You can actually go to visit it in San Antonio, Texas. As you can see, they have what is now the Texan flag flying above as well. War with Mexico. The president at the time was James K. Polk, and he, as someone who was motivated by manifest destiny, tried to buy Mexican territory from Mexico. Mexico, who was angry about the annexation of Texas, refused to even acknowledge Polk. He actually sent a representative there, and they wouldn't even speak with him. So this made Polk kind of upset, and he decided to provoke the Mexicans to fight on the border of Texas. So there's some dispute over what was the exact border of Texas, and he actually pointed cannons at the border. So he didn't actually cause a fight, but many believe that he was actually trying to taunt them into fighting. So Mexicans did end up firing, and Polk decided to declare war. Many Americans at the time and still today questioned Polk's motives. They thought that he was trying to get them to fight so that he could go to war in order to win this land, and that he wasn't exactly innocent in this situation. Mexico was very unprepared for war, and Polk knew that. And so he knew he probably had a good shot at winning if they did go to war. And the U.S. was very successful. They actually went to Mexico City, captured that city, and they were able to negotiate a treaty in favor of the United States. The treaty was called the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and basically what it said is that the Mexico would gain $15 million, which is half of what Polk originally offered, $30 million. So they only got half that, and all their debt to the United States was excused, so they didn't have to pay back their debt. In exchange, the U.S. acquired 1/3 of Mexico's territory, which is called the Mexican Cession. So they gained the rest of Texas, also California, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona. So a fairly large piece of land that allowed them to stretch all the way to the Pacific Ocean. So one major impact of this land acquisition or adding land to our territory was that we gained more land, which is exactly what they wanted and felt was their God-given right to do through manifest destiny. But actually what would happen with that land would end up splitting the country and eventually starting a war. There's a huge question on whether slavery would be legal in this new land. And this issue split the country. I called it a prelude to civil war, almost like a preview to it, because an argument over what to do with this newfound land would end up splitting the country.